Hi, this is Carter Wetzel with Secure Secrets today with a proposal about the Secret Foundation Education Committee structure. This is created on August 29th, and without further ado, let's jump right in. So this is going to be our table of contents. This is what we're going to be covering today in this short video. We'll be talking about the structure, an EPF, which is really important, an education proposal funnel. An EP is really what it is, but we call them EPFs. The meeting structure for the education committee, secret content stages, which are SCS, content health status, CHS, membership specification, membership and community engagement, the education committee ethos, the education committee ethos inspiration, content creation groups, and then the document log. So let's talk about structure. This is separate from content creation groups, and that this is really top-down. Who is responsible for this committee? So at the very top is the Secret Foundation and the community. Ultimately, they hold the power and control of this group, the ability to delegate new people for these positions, to modify the structure of this committee, and ultimately, the Secret Foundation and the community are who the Education Committee serves. So let's talk about the Education Committee. With the current proposal, because we're looking for people to lead this committee, Secure Secrets is proposing that myself, Carter Wetzel, and Muhammad Patla run as committee leads for the Education Committee. This would be a dual leadership structure in that if there's some problem that came up from the content manager, we are the ones that kind of have final say, whether it be about accepting an educational proposal, which I'll talk about what those are, when it comes to delegating resources, when it comes to ending a project, starting a project. It's just kind of the final checkbox is going to be from me and Muhammad, just making sure that we do have leadership in this committee and that there is a decisive kind of hierarchy with how we want things to be approved. So yeah, we're the committee leads, and we can talk more about what that means in our meeting on Tuesday. But I think having it be two people instead of one is a really good way to do it, because that means even though me and Muhammad are both part of Secure Secrets, how we approach any given thing will be different. So there will always be discussion even at the kind of top of this committee. So who is the content manager? The content manager is going to be the person running the day-to-day operations. They're the ones who are checking in with content creators to see how they're doing. They're the one that's checking in with the content itself, and they're the ones that are constantly modifying the educational brand of the committee, as well as tracking kind of the educational equity of it all. Naturally, committee leads are responsible for all these three things, but the content manager is really the one who's down in the trenches with all that. So that's kind of the rough structure we have listed here. So let's talk about what an educational proposal funnel it is. I call it an EPF. I like to follow what I call the 4WH model. Now, this is actually something I've created over time with getting projects done in committees. I've kind of observed over the years that it kind of comes to a halt with what does it mean to create content. So we'll start with the first W. Who is creating the content, and who is the audience? With the Secret Network, there's really three possibilities for who. It can be the Secret Foundation, a third-party entity, or both of them working together. That is to say that we can have people that when the content is being created, it's going to be owned either by the Secret Foundation, or it will be owned by a separate party, or it'll be a joint effort. But it's really important for any proposal that you know who owns the content. So that's the first step. Now, this whole process here would be a Google form. It'd actually be pretty simple to fill out. I'm just kind of walking through the exact details here. So who is creating the content? Who is the audience? So is the audience delegators? Is it developers? Or is it enterprise? Is it the general secret community? Is it a specific external community? Is it just a general audience, mom and pop at home, or is it speculators? Obviously, there's a lot more bullet points that could be added here. But from the get-go, who owns the content? Who's creating it? Who is the audience? So that's the first W. We move on to the next one. What is the content? What does it accomplish? That's pretty straightforward. You can have a lot of conversations about this particular W. This is really where all the excitement is. And when we talk about effectiveness of content, this perhaps is where what does it accomplish come into the picture, right? Because we don't want to make any and all content. There is such thing as bad content, and that's why we have these steps in a proposal, so we're able to slow people down if it's like, nope, I think your time could be more valuable elsewhere. So that's the who, that's the what, and the where. Now, there's going to be some collaboration here with the awareness committee, but where will it be distributed? Is it going to be in written content? Is it going to be video? Is it going to be on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit? That has to be decided about where it's going to be distributed. Perhaps in email form. Who knows? When will it be created? When will it be released? Now, I'm going to talk about a timeline that we can kind of use for projects. But once again, picture all of this being in like a Google form. Someone saying, hey, this will be the start date. This is going to be the release dates, tentatively, at least the first one. For an EPF, we don't need an exact release date for every single episode. That's a bit extreme, or every single article. But at a bare minimum, you need the starting date of when the content will be released and when it will be created. Finally, so we just covered the 4 W's. What's the H in the 4WH model? It is, how do you need assistance? So in this case, with the education committee, that's the amount of secret that is being proposed to assist, the skill sets that are needed, and the contacts that are required. So let's walk through what this looks like. We have someone on the education committee that get an idea. They have an idea for a project. They would submit their Google form with the 4 W's. And then finally, the H part is really where management comes into hand. This is where your committee leads come in. Because people can make requests. They sometimes do need financial assistance to be able to get a project completed. And that's that secret amount. That's those skill sets. That's where your content manager can connect people to make a project happen. And then sometimes contacts are required. Sometimes you need, like for instance, for a podcast, you want a certain guest. You need help with being able to get in touch with those people. But we want to empower people to be able to do that. So that's where the how comes into this model of the EPF. So that's the 4WH model. People would be submitting these pretty consistently. That would be the hope. This would be the format in a Google form. And I think it's a really effective model for doing things. So now let's talk about meetings for the education committee. Step 1, the structure of the education committee meetings, ECMs, is focusing on being a catalyst for assisting what is actively being created and what could be created. There will likely be more WOPs during the early portion of the committee as we iron out smaller details. Long-term focus is on EPFs. And remember, EPFs are education proposal funnels. So the way I would envision meetings at the education committee is we start by addressing any EPFs that have been proposed in the last week. So any project that someone says, hey, I want to gather people, I want to make this happen, this is the target audience, this is who owns the content, yada, 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 walking through all those details, we address it in the meeting. We talk about the idea of it, the problems, the benefits, all of that as a committee. Next, we move on to WOPs, which are weekly agenda proposal points. Now, people can propose agenda points in Rocket Chat, and they can be included within the meeting. It'll be up to the committee leads to accept any given WOP. But we do want to give people the opportunity to propose those points, and committee leads can obviously include WOPs whenever they want. So after we go over weekly agenda points, and like I said, there's probably going to be a lot more WOPs earlier on in the organization of the committee, as there's some more granular details that have to be figured out. But the main focus is on EPFs as time goes on, because we're focused on pushing out content and making that happen. That's the long-term focus of this committee. So after we talk about WOPs, we then talk about active EPFs. Now, these are projects that are currently in motion. We want to get efficient updates to the group and from the group. If they're having any problems with 4WH, they're having problems with any one of these particular things, this is where they tell us that, and we're able to give them resources and assistance to make it happen. Finally, at the end of the meeting, we have EPF's brainstorm. This is where we're trying to generate new ideas, open mic, as well as, this open mic moment for anyone to speak up. And that would be the conclusion of most of our meetings. And now, when we talk about active EPF's projects in motion, we'll have a timeline for that, and I'll show you that in a second. So, what is secret content stages? Whenever someone proposes an EPF, they get approved, there has to be a process for tracking, hey, is this project being effective? So this is the timeline that I propose. Your EPF gets approved by the committee. And once it's approved, you have about a week to begin gathering your talent and creating the content. We give you a solid full week to do that. It could be 2 weeks, but this is just kind of a rough outline. And during this next stage, you're gathering and creating your content in week 2. And by week 3, you have released and iterated your content based off of feedback from the community as well as the education committee. And finally, by week 4, into an indefinite period of time, you then either finish the series, or you update the series, or you scale the series by proposing another EPF that would essentially give you more resources because it's super resoundingly successful. Like, let's say you have some massive research team working on use cases and the community, and it goes really, really well. Maybe we would want to give you more funding. And once you reach like this 4-week stage or week 12 stage, that we would be like, hey, let's propose another EPF. Let's give you more resources because it's going really well. So with this little 4-week process, this gives us structure and an ability to track where any given project is at any given moment. It actually gives us benchmarks for understanding if a piece of content is successfully on track or unsuccessfully off track. That's what a SCS is, secret content stages. Your project manager would be interacting with projects and tracking this as it goes. And this is where the content health status, the CHS, comes into play here. Now, it's the role of the content manager to assign a content health status to all EPFs at any given moment. Committee leads can obviously come in and reassign the status of any given project, but it's up to the content manager to really be the one down in the trenches. So, really important to note, there's four levels for content health status. There is a thriving project, which is going above and beyond, wildly successful collaboration. The community loves it. You have an alive project, which is, it's meeting the timeline. It's doing what it needs to do. It's not necessarily 100% perfect, but it's doing well. And then we have waning projects. These are projects that are actively shrinking. People have slowed down working on them. Deadlines aren't necessarily being met, but there's still kind of like this ongoing investment into it. There's just not a lot of urgency there. And then finally, there's dead projects where essentially the EPF funding would be slashed or cut. This is where your committee leads and your content managers say, nope, this isn't an effective use of resources. We're cutting funding. You may continue to work on it as a passion project, but you don't have the support of the education committee. We're not going to commit resources to assisting a dead project. So note that in the bottom left corner, content health status will be assigned once week 3 of the secret content stages has been reached. So until you reach week 3, you're not going to have a status. But once you get to week 3, the release and iteration stage, then we can start to tell, hey, is this project dead? Is this project alive? Now, if you get to week 3 and you haven't even gathered or created, obviously for the content health status, we're going to say you're a dead project or a waning project. But the whole point of this is to be able to track where projects are at and to have some level of accountability. So membership specification, there's a quote from Margaret J. Wheatley that says, there is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Now, in my mind, there's 3 types of people that roll up to a committee in this space. There's advocates, there's creators, and there's organizers. Advocates are people that just kind of want to listen in. They want to be there. They want to learn. They're probably active in the Telegram. They're active in communities, but they don't actually know what it means to create. And they might not even necessarily want to create, but they want to feel like they're a part of something. And we still love these people. Even if you're not a creator, we still would love to have you a part of the committee. It's just managing expectations of what these people will actually be capable of achieving. So there's advocates, there's creators, and there's organizers. And I think it's really important to kind of categorize people into these three categories. And it doesn't mean you can't be a creator and an organizer, or an advocate and an organizer, but it's just good to understand when we talk about requirements, what your degree of involvement is going to be. So my proposal would be that in order to be a member, you have to send 0.1 secret from a secret address, contact info, whether it be Telegram, email, or Rocket Chat, and then you should commit to a certain amount of involvement. Maybe it's 1 hour a week, 5, 10, etc. Maybe it's 15 minutes. And based off of that, if you're saying I'm only going to commit 15 minutes a week, it's probably going to be really hard for you to be a creator. It's probably going to be impossible for you to be an organizer. If you're someone who's committing to 10 hours a week, you could probably be a creator and an organizer and an advocate. You can be all of these things, but we just want to be honest with people that want to become members, what they're actually capable of achieving. So membership and community engagement. I've found that for many organizations, finding the perfect balance between volunteer and member engagement is a major challenge. Realistically, we want members to feel empowered and feel like they've accomplished something really good by being a part of the education committee. So how do we do that? So first off, engaging events, open forum debates, discussions. We want to be hosting panels. We want to be hosting people that are excited to talk about the technology. And I think there's a lot of room to be hosting these larger scale events to get, to amplify the community voice. It's a celebration of what is being created on the network. So engaging events are a part of what it means to engage your membership community. Digital and physical perks. We're talking about swag, timesheet rewards. Like if you properly put your timesheet in every week and say, hey, put in my hour, or I put in my 5 hours. We want to be able to recognize people who do that. We want to give you the ability to post on LinkedIn that you're part of this committee. Membership has to feel rewarding, or there is no reason to engage. If members don't feel rewarded for their work, there is no reason for them to show up and invest in this community. We have so many things going on in our lives. Why should I commit time to this project? And the reason members will commit time to this project is because we value them, we engage with them, and we show them support. And the community will show them support as well. And part of that is perks. Staying in touch with members. As committee leads, as content creators, as project leaders, there needs to be consistent outreach with members, not just meetings. If all a committee is having a meeting once a week, then you're not a committee, you're a dead committee. You're nothing. You actually really aren't accomplishing anything. Unless you're building, unless you're communicating separate from that meeting once a week, then you're completely unsuccessful. So consistent outreach is a huge part of this. Goals that engage. One thing I think would be really cool if we had a theme of the month for all content creators. We need to develop content campaigns that engage everyone, not just 2 or 3 people from a committee. We need everyone to be a part of this process of building towards a larger goal. And this is really difficult to do. Privacy is kind of the banner we all rally under, but I think we can do a better job of engaging people with a larger campaign goal. Integrated management tools. One thing I like to say is management tools configured correctly are encouraging, not isolating. This is to say spreadsheets or an Airtable, all of these things, they should be an opportunity for members to see what other people are working on, where they're at in those projects, and that should be exciting. It should be an exciting process. It shouldn't be this, dreary details. If we set things up correctly, management tools are awesome. Everyone gets to feel like they're a part of the puzzle. Finally, for engaging the community, action and traction. People get bored when things are not being built, so the focus always has to be on building and creating content. Or else people just aren't going to engage. They're just not going to do it. People aren't going to roll up to a call once a week unless they feel like there's actual payoff and progress by the committee. So those are just a couple of ideas that we have about membership and community engagement. It's super, super important. So what's our committee ethos? There's really 5 pieces I would at Secure Secrets we would push for. First off, the committee's goal is to empower privacy as a human right and as something that's economically valuable. Second, the committee must 100% be transparent. Progress and support for educational content is made possible by the community understanding our larger vision and precisely how we are using secret funds. So, in layman's terms, if you're not transparent, there's no reason the community should support giving us funds to promote the network, right? So that's why transparency is 100% key. We want to be friendly. Educational content should be warm, welcoming, and exciting. It's for a lot of people, it's when you're coming from an external community, educational content is the first thing you encounter. So branding and positioning with your educational content is a massive deal. It's the snapshot of the community itself. So we want to be friendly. We also want to be collaborative. When one of us succeeds, we all succeed. And that's not to say we don't promote people individually succeeding. It means that there's room for everyone to contribute, and we're going to find a place for you to contribute to a project. We're going to find the right place for you. Finally, the fifth and final ethos that we like to follow is honesty. We are truthful about what the network is capable of and what can be accomplished within a given time frame. In this community, I don't want people to have like, we got this epic, massive project that's on the way, and then we're going to get it done in like a week. It's like, no. Like, we're going to follow content stages. We're going to have health statuses, and we're going to be honest about it. And in our content as well, we're going to be honest about what can be accomplished. We're not going to be a community of vaporware. We're not going to be a community of false promises. We're going to strive to educate people with the truth. What's inspired our ethos? The goal of education is the advancement of knowledge and the dissemination of truth. That is what we're aiming to do with this committee. Advance the knowledge of the network and disseminate truth about the network and the community itself. Zcash Foundation had a great quote that said, the thing that really matters most when you're talking about funding public goods is to establish legitimacy in the process. Everyone in the community, the people who use your protocol, are brought into the process that decides these things. So as an education committee, our goal is to establish legitimacy of progress. That is to say, the community can look at us and trust us that giving funds to us will be properly leveraged to be a catalyst for furthering the network, delegator incentives, validators, everyone, the whole network. Allocating funds to us is worth it. Allocating funds to the foundation and to the education committee is helping fund the public good that is the secret network. Quote about transparency, quote about governance, quote about kindness, and quote about coming together and staying together. Coming together is a beginning, staying together is a process, and working together is a success. So many communities out there just get to this stage. Coming together is a beginning. They never make it to staying together. They never make it to working together. That is our first goal that must be tackled. How do we bring in members? How do we engage them? How do we make them come back again and again? And how do we get them to work together? So finally, I just want to touch on content creation groups. Within the education committee, and all this is still up in the air, but I view it as really being, like, content consists of three things. There's a visual form, there's a written form, and there's a video and audio form. So advocates and creators belong in any of these groups. Organizers are the people in between these groups. And for any given piece of content, there's a range of people with how they view content. You have people that are really focused on how it works, and you have people that are really focused on why it's important. Our goal is to have a range of people passionate about how it works and why it's important in every single one of these groups. So like a developer is obsessed with how it works, whereas a speculator is obsessed with why it's important. So we need people from all ranges in every one of these groups such that we can have effective and powerful content. So this is the document log. This was updated on the 29th, 5 p.m. Central Time. I want to thank you for listening to this short little presentation on this proposed structure. At the end of the day, we want EPFs to become the standard model for proposing content and making it happen. So thank you for your time. This was Secure Secrets. Have a nice day.